This time on Newton Newsmakers, what motivates a person to challenge an incumbent and run for the Newton School Committee? We'll talk with 4 people who have jumped headfirst into Newton politics by doing just that. So who are these people? Why do they want the job? Where do they want to take us? And what will it mean for our kids? It's all about the Newton Public Schools next on Newton Newsmakers.
Newton Newsmakers is made possible through the generous support of First Commons Bank on Beacon Street in Newton Center, representing the future of banking with an inviting environment, the latest banking technologies, and a personal touch to make banking convenient, simple, and sensible. Also at firstcommonsbank.com.
Newsmakers, everyone. This month we're talking about the future of the Newton School Committee. I'm Charlie Shapiro. The Newton School Committee is entrusted with a sacred responsibility, overseeing the education of our kids. The school committee is elected, as you probably know, by the entire city. There are 8 voting members of the school committee, plus the mayor. Each of the 8 members comes from a different ward in the city, but every one of the members is elected by the entire city. The 4 folks we have as our guests today have several things in common. All obviously live in Newton, all care deeply about the future of the Newton Public Schools, and have all decided to challenge an incumbent for a seat on the Newton School Committee. It is that last reason, that very specific reason, their decision to challenge an incumbent, that they've been invited to be on today's program. So first of all, thank you all for being here. And let's just go around the table a little bit here and start off with Steve Siegel. Steve is on the left of your screen. He's sitting next to Olivia Mathews. And just a little bit about yourself first, if you would, Steve.
Hi, Charlie. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I've been a 20-year Newton resident. I have a business in town as a structural engineer. I have a daughter who's going into the 5th grade at Service, a daughter who's going into the 8th grade at Oak Hill. I have been gradually tuning into Newton political issues over the last few years, and got to a point where I thought that I had something to offer of value to the school committee. That's why I chose to run. Great.
Well, thanks for joining us. And next to you sits Olivia Mathews. Olivia, welcome to you as well.
Thank you, Charlie.
So what's your story, the Olivia Mathews story?
Well, similar to Steve, I have kids in the Newton schools and decided to run for school committee because I believe that I have something that is missing from the school committee that I can bring to it. And that's that I have 14 years of experience working in education, and found that there was nobody else on the school committee who's ever worked in a elementary school or a middle school or a high school. Okay,
so we'll talk more about that in a second. Let's introduce the rest of our panel. Margaret Albright is here with us. Welcome to you, Margaret. Thanks for coming in.
Hi, Charlie. Thanks. I'm an 18-year resident of Newton, and I am a grants and development consultant. I have my own company here in Newton. My child will be in 6th grade at Day Middle School this fall. And I've done a number of things in Newton. I was on school council at the Horace Mann Elementary School for 3 years. I was on the social studies curriculum committee, where we aligned the curriculum with the state frameworks. And I served on the strategic planning committee. And I just felt that the stars were finally aligned for some real change here in Newton, and I wanted to be part of that.
Great. Thanks for coming in. Dan Proskauer, last but certainly not least.
Hi, Charlie.
Round table here. Hi, Dan. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Thank you very much, by the way, for having us here, and I'm honored to be with these other brave and expeditious people. I've got you all beat, though, because I was born in Newton, and I've lived in Newton all my life, with a few years off for college and, a couple years here and there. So I've been here for a long time. I went through the Newton schools. I went to the Hyde Elementary School, which sadly is no more an elementary school. I went to the Meadowbrook, which is now Brown Middle School. I went to Newton South High School. And I have 3 children in the public schools as well, a son entering 9th grade at Day, and a daughter who's going to be in 4th grade at Franklin, and a daughter in 1st grade this year at Franklin.
Great.
So obviously very committed.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. I want to mention there are also 6 other candidates that are running for open seats on the committee, and we certainly hope to have them on the program in the future. But since your opponents are not here, what I want to do is stay away from any direct comparisons for this show at least, and keep the focus specifically on each of you as an individual person and what you bring as that individual to the school committee. So you've already mentioned a little bit about your backgrounds. Let's just, this is only a half-hour show. It's going to go very quickly, and that's a good thing. Let's try to get as many points as we possibly can.
Okay.
First, starting with Steve, and let's go around the table again. Give me your top 2 issues, if you could, of not just why you're running, but on the job, first day, what do you think your focus really is going to be?
The first thing that I'm going to focus on is the long-range facilities plan. This is a plan that has been put together by a subcommittee of the school committee over time, and it addresses the future of our school infrastructure. This is a plan that ideally will address the size of our schools, that will address the condition of our schools, and my impression of the plan is that it did some very good work in identifying what the conditions of our buildings are, but I think that as a structural engineer and as an engineering professional who has a very sort of systematic approach to problem solving, I saw the need for I saw a need for us to turn our assessment around, where we were originally looking at identifying what we needed for school space, going ahead with the planning, but not looking at our budgeting process and not looking at how we were going to finance them. So I want to look at that right up front and make sure that we don't plan in the wrong order.
So you mentioned you're a structural engineer. Let me just take off on that just
Sure.
for 1 second here. First of all, I'm guessing we do not currently have a structural engineer on the school committee. Is that a safe bet?
I haven't noticed any.
Okay. So how valuable, a little bit of a softball question, but really, how valuable could those specific talents of yours on your professional scale be when we're looking at rebuilding or renovating our elementary and potentially other schools as well?
I think, I mean, obviously I think it's valuable. It's not the only thing that I bring, but I think that as somebody who has worked in the design and construction field for almost 30 years, I bring a perspective that hasn't been represented on the school committee before. And I'll give just an extremely quick example. The long-range plan talks about how Burr is a school that cannot be readily expanded because it's built on a landfill, and so the foundations, so the soils aren't suitable for expansion. And my first reaction is, and I haven't looked at the engineering reports in greater detail, but there's no reason we couldn't put an expansion on piles and grade beams and a structural slab. So it's a simple thing, but it just shows that the perspective of a building professional may open up options in our construction projects that haven't been considered before.
Okay. Olivia, you've got some interesting qualifications yourself. You actually have a teaching background.
Yes, I've been a teacher and an assistant principal in a K-8 Cambridge Public School.
Okay, and how many years did you do that?
A couple years, and then I was also running a literacy program in school systems that included Waltham, Billerica, Everett, Chelsea, Boston.
What was the name of the program?
The Everybody Wins Power Lunch program, and we got corporate volunteers to read with kids one-on-one every week in their lunch hour to make a difference for the kids who weren't getting read to at home.
So you were actually doing what people love to talk about, these public-private partnerships in a sense.
Yes, and I found that it was really exciting to get people who weren't in the schools involved in the schools. When you gave them a specific way to get involved, people are hungry to help, they just need to know how. So I love doing that.
And being a teacher, I'm assuming that would be probably your number one qualification. I would hope that for being on the school committee. I don't believe we have any teachers on the school committee right now. Is that accurate as well?
Yes, we do not, nor do we have any administrators. As an assistant principal, I got a different perspective, which I think would help me to, when decisions are being made, be able to say, well, here are some things that I know really work in schools. And especially in this time when in the 09 budget we had to cut 80 teachers, we need to figure out how to make sure that class sizes don't keep going up, because it's not just the parents who don't want the increased class sizes, but we want the best teachers to be excited to come teach in Newton. So we need to make sure the class sizes don't keep going up and that the teachers are getting what they need.